I'm going to be teaching you how to make this beautiful paper flower right here. You're going to need some good old school glue, a pair of scissors, 4 post-it notes, and optional, you can use tape or a pencil. So we're going to be pulling off our post-it notes one by one. Try not to curve them too much. And for you guys who are wondering, the paper just has to be square. Post-it notes, they're 3 by 3 inches, so they work perfectly for this. If you're using post-it notes, I recommend you take the glue off just by rubbing it again and again, because the flowers I've made before, they end up with the sticky parts out, and then they accumulate dust and stuff, and it just doesn't look pretty afterwards. So we're going to begin rubbing off all the glue, just like that. It is a bit tough to take off the glue, so it's also very tedious, and you might end up with a bit of glue on the paper and it might be crumpled. So I usually don't do it, but I want these flowers to turn out a little bit prettier. So now we begin to fold our papers into mini triangles. First, you fold one in half. Make sure to crease it well. And then you fold this little triangle, in half again. So we fold it 1 time, 2 times, and then finally one last time, like this. Make sure to do this with all your papers. You're going to need it. And when you're all done that, you must have 4 of these little papers folded 3 times into a triangle. So now, this is when we take out our scissors. You can use this side or this side, doesn't matter honestly, as long as you have this, you see this folded side right here? That's what you need. If it's not on that folded side, it's just going to crumble and fall apart completely. Trust me, I made the mistake before. So, as long as your petal is touching this side, this folded side, you are good. I usually make this like curvy, there we go, petal every time I make flowers. So I'm going to attempt that again. Look at that. I think my petal turned out pretty well. We cut off a little bit of the bottom, not too much, but we might have to cut more later to make room for other petals. And we open up to see how well it is. Look at that. Isn't that pretty? So now we have to do this with all our other ones. You might want to save the scraps because you can make like this little bouquet of flowers after you're done. I like to do that, but if you don't want to do that, then you can just throw the scraps away. Make sure to recycle them though. This one turned out a little more pointy than I thought it would, but that's okay because mostly no one notices all the mistakes you make as long as it looks like a really nice flower. So now that we're done with all our little mini flower things, we have to make it from 2D to 3D. So you might want to wipe off any like crumbly glue bits left. I only use post-it notes because it's already a square and I don't have to do anything. But you can cut your own at home. Just make sure that it's a perfect square. So now we have to make the petals. So you see this little line? There are 8 petals in total. So you just want to cut only 1 out. And this is when you notice your petals aren't perfect. But that's okay. And now we cut out 1 out of this one. We cut out 2 out of that other one. So we cut 2 out of this one. We cut out 3 out of this one. And for the last one, we cut out 4, so we just cut it in half. So now that we cut all our petals, you should have one 5-piece, well, one 6-piece, 7, 8 minus 1 is 7, one 7-piece, one 6-piece, 1 5-piece, 2 4-pieces, 1 3-piece, 1 2-piece, and 1 1-piece of petals. And now, all I have to do is, see how this folds this way? We have to fold it inward, direction you want the flower to go. This is an extra step, but if you want it to look more put together, I would do it. Because then it naturally curves into a flower. See that? Surprise! Does it look like a flower? Well, it's still in parts right now. But we're really close. So now we just gently overlap each petal. This would make a really closed flower. And I'm more into more open flowers, but however you want to do it, you can do it. So we're going to get our glue out. Make sure it's all the way at the bottom. And gently put tiny bunch of glue, spread it out, and overlap the petals. You might want to hold it for a few seconds. That way it can stick together thoroughly and it doesn't look like there's much of a mess. See? And now we go through and we do that for each layer of the flower. I'll show you how to do it when it comes to the very, very small ones. When you get to this one, number 4, the second number 4, I usually like to cut up into smaller pieces to put inside the other pieces, but you can do it as number 4 like that, but it just, I feel like it makes it like there's an open piece at the bottom and then it's all like crumbled together in the middle. And I don't like how that looks, so I usually cut up the 4th piece, but you can do whatever you want. I forgot to mention that if you don't know how to cut a good petal, or you're scared you're going to mess it up, you can obviously trace it. That was what the pencil was for. You can try to trace it. I haven't had a good experiences with tracing, so I don't normally trace. But you can also do half a petal instead of a full petal. And glue it on like that. And you could also use tape to connect them, but I found that looks very not appealing and kind of ugly, but that's why I use glue. So when it comes to the 2-piece, you obviously can't glue it to itself because that doesn't look great. So what we're going to do is we're going to roll it up a little bit on every side like this. We're going to roll it up a little this way, roll up a little that way. It looks like a little scroll, except a lot worse. At least right now. I'm going to roll it up like that. And we're going to unroll it. This makes it a lot more easy to glue because now the shape is there for us. And this is the shape we want. Unless you want to make another shape. Go for it. Another note, if you can't cut well with scissors for the petals, you can make geometric petals. You can make squares, you can make triangles. Whatever works for you. So now we have this little prong piece. Never really liked the 2s in the flower, but it all builds up. And for the 1, you're going to do the same thing as a 2, but now it's easier because it's smaller. So we're just going to roll it up, roll it between our fingers, and we have this piece. Just sits there perfectly. I usually get the 4-piece, cut it up, and put more decoration around it because it looks really empty. But that's just me. Whoop. This is what we've got so far. And I haven't glued the last piece, and I'll tell you why. Because this is where you get to do the more creativity part. I've glued the 2nd piece together, but this is when you have to look at the whole flower and think, what do I want this to look like? Because right now, since the bottom hole is really small, everything's sitting on top and like piling up. If you want a more like flat look, then you can make the hole bigger so everything can poke through and do that. I have another unfinished one over here that I made as practice, and I really like this one. and everything's sitting on top. So you can do whatever you want since flowers aren't perfect, and you can just create another species because that's what creativity is. So now I made 3 little prongs, and I'm going to make this one very small and one bigger and the other like medium sized so I can put them inside each other. This is with the extra 4-piece that I was talking about. So you can make this one very tiny and place it in this one. And place it in this one. And then it makes this like decoration piece. Make the prongs face different ways so people could actually like see the work put into it. Something like that. I think that would look very pretty in the center of a flower. Yep. I have to put the 2-piece in first. Yep, it looks really, really pretty. But the only thing is that it's drooping because it's not glued together yet. And that's the last step. We place a little bit of glue, circle around, spread it out a little bit on the bottom. We get the next piece, and we gently place it on top. I like to do this thing where, see how the petal's poking out this way, and I'm not putting the 2 petals on top of each other? It's so you can like see the layers. It looks more pretty that way in my opinion. Of course, it's going to be hard to glue together since they're not touching in most places. So you got to hold your finger, one on top, one on the bottom, and hold like that for a few seconds. Now I think it's safe to let go. Boom. And we go on with our layers, one after the other until we're done. Another thing is that you can curve the petals a little outwards so it looks like a flower, just a little more like a flower, like that. I recommend doing this before you glue it together, but I forgot. So, oh look, we're gonna have like this square shape. I want to show you that you don't only have to make this shape of a petal. You can see this one. It didn't turn out as well, but that's because I haven't tried that many other petals. But it turned out decent enough, and it still looks pretty in the center. I think I used a lot more than 4 post-it notes here, though, to make a lot of tiny petals. Just a little lopsided. Here's another very close one, but it's still really pretty, even if it's tiny. I think this would work a lot better in a bouquet. And whatever you're going to use it for, honestly. Decoration, mostly. Make sure to not put big globs of glue, because then it takes a long time to dry. And here's the flower I was talking about with the scraps. You can just roll them up, stick them together, and it makes this little mini bouquet. I'm going to add all the scraps to this when I'm done. And it's really hard because I used a lot of glue on this. When it comes to the 2s and the little mini ones, I recommend gluing them separately. I like doing that. It might look a lot more put together if you do it together, but I have no idea. So, do you. Try to dry these upright or else they start leaning off to the side and then they just get all smushed and it doesn't look good. Now I'm going to be gluing the little trio that I was talking about earlier. This one unfurled a bit, so we're going to curve it again. Make this tiny, tiny, tiny little petal. So I'm going to use very, very little glue. Just furl it up. You can't be afraid of getting your hands dirty because you are going to get your hands dirty. I already got glue on mine. And now we're going to get this medium one, put a dot of glue, put the mini petal inside. We might want to curl it up a little bit, make it comfortable. Put a little dot of glue on this. and then face it the other way so it looks like it's hugging it. That's cute, isn't it? And we could place it in the center. Oh, that's gonna look gorgeous. So I'm gonna let this dry a little bit, and then we're gonna put it all together and see the final product. Now is the moment where we are almost done. We just put a little dot of glue all the way down there, dripping off the side. We just carefully place this in the middle, and voila! It is done. Isn't that a pretty flower? And that's the final product. Thank you guys for making this beautiful flower with me, or just for watching. And I hope you have a beautiful and amazing day. It looks really pretty once it's done. And whatever you're going to use it for, good luck. I know you're going to make a beautiful flower.